Maybe it's no surprise that, that the Goldman Sachs, who basically has endorsed this plan, who has been bailed out by this administration, will be swamping the street this coming week in Washington with their CEO and other execs saying that they support this legislation. And why is that? Because President Obama said this legislation that Chris Dodd has and their administration is continuing the bailouts, continuing to say to the big banks on Wall Street, the very same ones that basically have provided the campaign cash to them in the past, banks, don't worry, the American taxpayers will be there for you in the future if you need it. And that's what this legislation perpetuates. Republicans are saying no to that. Republicans say we have to go back and do a system where we do not bail out these systems anymore, and then we have a system where jobs are created.
Who started the bailouts?
Well, in this legislation,
no. Who started the? You use the word bailout like it's your common word for every third word now. Bailout, bailout, bailout. Fine, it's very useful politically. But who started the bailouts? Wasn't it President Bush and the Republican administration that began the? And now you say the trouble with the Democrats is they're perpetuating Bushism. In other words, the worst thing you can say about a Democrat today is he or she is doing what your party did to start this ball rolling.
Right, exactly. I voted, and that's why, as you know, we've been talked about this in the past, Chris. I was opposed to those bailouts in the past, and I believe what we need to do now, what the American public says, is to say, if we haven't passed the legislation, we should do something that reforms the system. Make sure that we never find ourselves in this situation as we have right now. And how do you do that? You craft legislation in a bipartisan manner, much of the way that, Barney Frank did. I'll give him credit where credit is due. In our House, we had over 100 committee hearings last year on this, breaking it down piece by piece, bipartisan matter. I didn't like the final product, but we spent the time and the energy to get it done as best we could. In the Senate, as you know, they're just pushing this thing along with some of the bad, failed policies of the past, and I will agree with you there. Those policies of the Bush administration were bad and failed policies, and we should not perpetuate them into the future.
Okay, let me ask you a big question to both you, Chris Von Hollen and you, Congressman, both you, Congressman. If you have these big companies like Goldman Sachs, these leviathans, really, they're like the old railroad system, they're too big to fail. Can you either honestly say you'd let one of them go down, no matter what this $50 billion trust fund that's gleaned from the industry and all, but in the end, if the cost of bailing out one of these characters is $200 billion, wouldn't you have to do it?
Well,
wouldn't you have to do it if you had to?
Well,
if they failed?
The whole idea is to prevent that from happening.
But if it happened?
Well, we know what happens in the end. We know that you cannot allow a meltdown on Wall Street to bring the whole economy down.
Let me ask that philosophical question to Mr. Garrett. Congressman, would you let one of these big guys like Lehman go down and not bail them out like President Bush did? You're president.
Absolutely, and that's why the Republicans had a proposal before President Obama even came out with her plan. We said we should have an expedited bankruptcy so you don't have any of these provisions. Forget about that $50 billion bailout. Chris, what about Section 204 in the bill that secures the creditors going forward? What about Section 210 in the bill that says backdoor program? What about Section 1151,
I'm learning this like everybody is.
What about
the trouble
all those,
with bankruptcy is you let the same bums who brought the bank down to stay there. Bankruptcy doesn't mean the guys have to leave.
Sure, they do. If they go bankrupt, they're not there anymore. But under Chris,
they aren't.
No, let me just say one thing. No. Goldman Sachs and these guys have spent millions of dollars hiring lobbyists to oppose this legislation. They are not.
And where does that money go? Where does most of that money go to? Most of that money went to your party, Chris. Twice as much money has gone to your party.
Scott, we're talking about the money they paid to lobbyists. It didn't go to anybody but the lobbyists they were paying to try and kill this legislation. That's
I'm
what
talking about the money that's going
and
into your pockets, Chris, as head of the Democrat Congressional Committee. Twice as much money is going to Democrats than to Republicans.
Actually, that's absolutely untrue. Check the latest records, Scott. That's
Who gets the most money from Wall Street?
I think
I got the records right here, Chris.
And here the numbers are.
Okay, read the numbers off.
Democrats received $2.9 million from big banks, twice the amount of money than we received during the 2008 campaign.
And where's your document from? What are you reading from?
What's
on the top of the paper?
He's reading from a couple cycles ago. Right now, the reason McConnell went up there and the reason John Boehner met with them up there is to say, hey, you know what? You should be supporting us because we're trying to kill this thing. That is exactly why they huddled. That's why they went behind closed doors. That was the message they sent. And the fact of the matter is...
You know what it sounds like, not to be too gross about it, but Wall Street's got two tits, a right and a left one, and you guys are going off of each one and blaming the other guy for the other one. You're both depending on that system.
Chris, this legislation is designed to make sure that the Goldman Sachs of the world and the Lehman Brothers of the world never
How about
again
a
get
law?
the whole
How about a law
everybody
that
hostage.
nobody can take any more money from Wall Street? Would that be a good deal? Nobody can take any more money from Wall Street. Congressman, would you back up that deal? Congress can't take money from industries it regulates.
Well, we have that law in the state of New Jersey. We have that law in the state of New Jersey.
But it doesn't affect congressional people, though.
And I know, but I said it can be done.
I mean, you take money from big financial institutions. I checked your list today.
Yeah,
right?
Both sides take it.
You're not Mr. Clean here either, are you?
Sure.
Are you clean about taking money from Wall Street, sir? I'm not knocking it, but are you clean?
I'm taking a position that I'm antithetical to the position that Wall Street wants. Wall Street wants to have the taxpayer bank book right there all in the future. We're saying no more to that. Chris, I don't know why you want to put the taxpayer on the hook like this. I really don't.
I want to go back to Mr. Garrett just for one thought.
The derivatives
I have
all
to clear
these
one
things are making more
thought. Will either one of you say I'll never take money from Wall Street again? Okay, so I accept the silence. You won't take money. You will take money from Wall Street, won't you?
Look, no, seriously, Chris, you can check my records. Maybe I've gotten some money from Wall Street in the past, but the fact of the matter is, it's minuscule.
I mean, as chairman of the committee.
Come on, as the DCCC?
Yeah.
No, the fact of the matter is the DCCC.
Okay,
is
thank you.
Yeah, but
both sides do.
Yeah, but here's the question. Stick to the merits of what the proposal
I think the merits
does.
I think it's a good, it's a good effort. I prefer Teddy Roosevelt to William Howard Taft, but I think it's still a problem. Anyway, thank you, Congressman Van Hollen, and thank you, Congressman Garrett.
Thank you.
You all took money from the industry, except he took less, he says, but I'm not sure. Coming up, will President Obama be forced to take an immigration reform?